Take a minute to show a test I made using the Learn My Test tool. So what you do is you enter in key terms that you need to know for your test. Then when you're done, you organize the key terms into categories that make sense to you. Once you're done organizing your terms into categories, then you can enter in differences between terms in the same category to give you a higher level of understanding. Throughout the whole process of doing this, you're learning the material. And then Learn My Test takes this information and uses it to generate a practice test on what you've just learned. When you're finished with the practice test, you click OK. It'll give you your results of the test, and then you can click on View All Results. And if you organize the test results into categories, you can see your results on each of the categories and focus your next test on the categories you don't know as well. So maximizing study time. So see, I made 100 on operant conditioning, so that I'm not going to focus on that test for the next one.
For watching the current video on how to write a conclusion for your research paper using the Learn My Test method. The first step is to restate the purpose of your paper. So, for example, in my paper, the purpose was to review 3 research studies on the effects of social media use on psychological well-being. The second step is to provide a brief summary of the findings of all the research studies that you reviewed. So, for example, the first study I reviewed suggests that positive and negative feedback from social media posts can affect self-esteem and psychological well-being. In turn, the second study suggests that college students who post about their college sports teams leads to an increased level of belongingness to their school, which can in turn increase psychological well-being. The third step is to provide a concluding summary sentence of what all the findings mean or how they can be translated to the real world in some way. So, for example, in my studies, I stated that the findings suggest that both the content and the feedback you receive on social media can influence your levels of happiness and psychological well-being. The fourth step is to discuss the limitations and directions for future research. You will likely want to try and find some limitations or problems trusting the findings of the research that were consistent across the studies that you reviewed. For each of the limitations, you discuss or state what the researchers should do in the future to address those problems and improve future research in that area. So I said that since both studies use subjective questionnaires to record social media use, future research may want to study individuals' actual posts and responses rather than asking them to rate on a subjective scale. Furthermore, none of the studies accounted for ethnicity, which may have a strong impact on Facebook use. As a result, future studies may want to assess the effects of ethnicity on the relationship between ethnicity, social media use, and psychological well-being. So to review, the steps to writing your conclusion are to state the purpose of the paper, provide a brief summary of the research findings of all the studies that you reviewed, provide a concluding sentence of what all the findings mean and how they translate to the real world in some way, and step 4, provide limitations or problems common for all the studies that you read and ways future researchers can address those limitations. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember that the best way to study is to take practice tests. If you can't find good practice tests, build your own and learn while you do it using the Learn My Test tool. It's absolutely free at learnmytest.com. Please check our growing list of test banks for one in your field of study.